big, yes,
Yeah.
they make this sort of big fire, and all the students are on the street and are, drinking alcohol and so on. So it's a big, yeah.
Yeah, it's Walpurgi night. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So maybe also that why not so many person present participating tonight.
It's always a nightmare to organize things and to get.
Yes, it is. It is.
Good. So I would
Okay,
say,
yeah. I think we should start
yeah,
because Stefan started to record,
yeah,
and then I will just send again the information with already
yeah.
recorded link
That,
that everyone could watch.
Natalia, you just tell us when to switch. You just tell me when to switch the page. I will do so.
Yes, thank you so much, Stefan.
Okay, how we start again? I, as usual, say that this is international interdisciplinary seminar series in Romani studies, which we run since September 2022. So this is the third year. And I started this at Uppsala University with the Hugo Valentin Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies. And then another partner also joined us, the Institute for Russian and Eurasian Studies, Uppsala University, which is currently as well the main leading institution for this series. And then we had another partner, the Department of Anthropology and Ethnography, again at Uppsala University for one semester. And after that, the Roma Foundation from Zurich, Switzerland, joined as a constant partner, and Stefan Lederich and myself now are organizing those seminar series. Also, it was supported by the Uppsala Forum against Sweden, and we have different speakers, researchers, academics and non-academics, Roma and non-Roma. And what is important that first now we have cooperation between academic institution and Romani NGO, which is the Roma Foundation. And also we invite more and more Romani activists and representatives of the Romani communities, because we think that it's extremely important to hear voices of Roma people and not to do anything about Roma without Roma. And just to remind everyone that in January we had Justyna Matkowska, who is a Romni, but also an academic. And in February we had Miriam Karole, who is also very known in human rights and defending Roma and representing Roma in Austria. So she's also Romni. And today, March we cancelled because of technical reasons. And today, this is a great pleasure to introduce Natalia Tomenko, or Natalie Tomenko, from Ukraine, who is again Romni and the activist. And this is our first speaker from Ukraine for 3 years, with the exception of myself. But I mean, from the NGO, I struggled to find a speaker for many months due to, of course, different reasons. First of all, the situation in Ukraine, the Russia's war against Ukraine, and some other reasons. And I'm extremely happy that Natalia agreed to present today. And just a couple of words about Natalia. Natalia is a visual artist, curator, cultural heritage expert, Roma human rights activist. She completed her MA in Seoul, Central European University, in cultural heritage studies. She also has a MA from Ukraine, from Kharkiv State Academy of Design and Arts. And recently, Natalia organized several artistic exhibitions in Austria and Germany, and cooperates very close with other NGOs, Roma and non-Roma, particularly in in Germany, and also she had a stipend, and she coordinates now the history and commemoration section at the ARCA, European Roma Institute for Arts and Culture in Berlin, and she had a stipend and fellowship at Heidelberg University, as far as I remember, because all this is not in the bio Natalia sent me. Natalia was very to mention all those things, but I think it's very important to show international cover of Ukrainian Roma. I mean, international engagement of Ukrainian Roma. And today, Natalia will talk about the role of Ukrainian Roma activism during the ongoing war, Russia's war against Ukraine. Which is extremely important topic. And Natalia represents ARCA, the youth organization, which Natalia and Volodymyr Yakovenko and some other people established several years ago in Ukraine. So ARCA is the youth agency for the advocacy of Roma culture, which currently also works despite the war in Ukraine. And I'm very happy to say that now we are also in cooperation, because ARCA organizes the workshop in Berlin about Roma in Ukraine and also South Europe, and invited me to lead this workshop. So I'm very happy to finally have cooperation with Ukrainian Roma organization. And again, the initiatives which ARCA organizes are great, and everyone with whom I talked, for instance, Miriam, Carola, and others, are very much impressed by the activities of the organization, and Natalia leads the ARCA. And today, Natalia's presentation again, Ukrainian Roma activism during the war. And Natalia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Hannah, Stefan, for invitation. It's my huge pleasure to be a speaker today, and I apologize for the background noises. This is my dog who is currently wants to go for a walk. It's evening session. My apologies for that, and I hope we will have a great discussion afterwards. I can start talking about ARCA, who we are, for the beginning. Thank you so much, Stefan. ARCA is Roma youth non-governmental organization that has been working in public sector of Ukraine since 2018, focusing its efforts on development of Roma youth movement, support and preservation of Roma history and culture, as well as building intercultural dialogue in Ukraine. We have several strategic goals of organization. 1 second, I just will close the door. So we have strategic goals, development and support of Roma youth movement in Ukraine, internationally and in Ukraine, establishment of intercultural dialogue. We fight with anti-Gypsyism and all its manifestations, existing stereotypes, prejudices, and hate speech. Preservation and promotion of the cultural heritage of the Roma in Ukraine, as well as advocating and lobbying the interest of the Roma communities on the local, national, and international levels. We can remain in this slide for a while. We have several areas of activities, which is youth work used to be our primary area before 2022. Now it's a bit weakened because many youngsters left the country and right now in exile. We work with education, mostly non-formal education. We still organize activities in Europe, and one of the workshops Hannah will lead soon in June in Berlin for us. We have human rights protection / advocacy, and since 2022 we've become very strong in this because we target a lot of political topics, and we are the face of Ukrainian Roma on many international platforms today. Also, we work with media a lot. We have our own platform about which I will talk a bit later. We work a lot with history and culture. We combine it. We talk about our culture today and how the historical perspective is strengthening it, and how it's important also to preserve the heritage of our ancestors. Since 2022, ARCA team has increased. So we are right now 12 people, Ukrainian and Roma, based in Ukraine and abroad, mostly in Poland, Germany, and Austria. And now I would say that war significantly impacted us in a way that in 2022 we really needed to switch many of our activities and to make a fast response to the humanitarian issues that were surrounding the communities. And we can remain on this slide for a while. 1 second. To display the situation before 2022, I will just provide some numbers of census to show you how the Roma communities and how many of us actually have been living in Ukraine. So by the census of 2001, and it was the last census happening in Ukraine until now, the number there is 47,000 of Roma in Ukraine. Unfortunately, this number is inaccurate as far as many of Roma do not declare themselves as Roma because of the fear of present anti-Gypsyism in a country. So estimates of non-governmental organizations shows that there were around 400,000 Roma in Ukraine before 2022. Roma communities are spread across the country. They live dispersed, but there are some compact settlements as well. For example, in Zakarpattia, in Odessa, it used to be in Donetsk and Kharkiv regions. And Roma living there, they are very different. So when we talk about context of Ukraine, it's important to highlight that there are around 15 main subgroups that are different by the traditions, by the dialects of Romani language, values, style of life, and place of living. And recent studies shows that anti-Gypsyism remains still very strong in Ukrainian society, same as in many European states countries. There is data that and latest research shows that 1 in 3 Ukrainians say that they don't want Roma in their communities to be their neighbors. Roma are seen as outsiders, and in this list of 3 categories, only Russians and Belarusians since 2022 became the first ones. So Roma on a third place, unfortunately. Until now, Roma are vulnerable, and during the war became even more. As far as Roma itself, they do not have a mother country to support them. They are suffered during centuries of racism and exclusion, and anti-Gypsyism is being rooted in Ukrainian society very deeply, and it's regarded as something normal, and the violence is becoming normal, which is just of course not normal, and we are trying to fight with it. I mean many Roma civil society organizations in Ukraine and human rights organizations. According to representative of the Office of Ombudsman in Ukraine, around 100,000 Roma became refugees in EU member states, and around the same number of 100,000 became internally displaced people, meaning that they are moving internally in Ukraine from east to central part of Ukraine or to west. Many of these Roma, they lack documents, ID passports, documentation on rights on their property as houses, which stops them from the registering for the aid, getting housing and crossing the borders. In some regions, up to a quarter of Roma don't have official status, which is significantly impacting their quality of their lives nowadays. When we talk about Roma refugees in Europe, Ukrainian refugees, so Ukrainians, they have specific status. They are not refugees as other communities. They have temporary protection status in EU, which was created specifically in 2022, which gives a permission for Ukrainians to work, to study, and yeah, it's kind of different from other asylum and refugee statuses that communities have. So what we see that Ukrainian Roma refugees are being treated differently than other Ukrainians. Particularly in shelters, there is a segregation that Roma are put in specific places where only Roma, where conditions for them are quite poor, and then in others. And overall, it seemed to be a problem with anti-Gypsyism that many Ukrainians do not want to be surrounded by Roma in these shelters. Yeah, that's another issue which is being tackled by many human rights organizations. And there is a big obstacle of Ukrainian Roma getting the same treatment in the cases of dual citizenship. So those Roma who are coming from west of Ukraine, and particularly Zakarpattia, Uzhhorod, many of them have two passports, Ukrainian and Hungarian. And because they have been regarded as the citizens of EU, they do not get aid as Ukrainians. This is problematic because not just Roma have this kind of passports, other Ukrainians too, but white Ukrainians are not being checked abroad. But if you are Roma, you have visible features of Roma identity as color of your skin, the language you speak, Romani. If you come in big groups, meaning families, you are being double, triple checked and then denied in any assistance and being expelled from the countries. So that's the case of many countries, in particular Germany. There was research done in Bavaria by one of the research institutions. And yeah, the situation overall is not very positive, unfortunately. Besides of the above-mentioned issues, access to education nowadays is also a critical point. Even before the war, most Roma children couldn't join online classes during the Corona time. Around 80% of children didn't have internet. Now, because of displacement and bombing, 1 in 4 Roma children is out of the school. This data is coming from our current research created by ARCA in 2023. We started to map out the situation with Roma children and youth. Being a youth organization, we care about it, and right now we think how actually we can tackle this issue and what can be done in nearest future. And overall, if we see the situation in Ukraine with higher education, it's only 1% of Roma youngsters and have higher education. The position internally in community are being changed. If you talk about position of Roma women, a lot of pressure right now on their shoulders besides of internally community obligations and gender roles as mother, as a householder. Right now, they also becoming more active professionally wise, which is in one way is really good for their own realization, but from other hand, it's really a lot of pressure, and usually the mental health, the physical health overall of these women is very weak, considering that they are men mostly on a front lines. So the statistics say that 1 in 4 families has its own members in army nowadays. For example, my uncle as well is a soldier right now. He had already several injuries, but he's continuing. He's defending country as many others. For example, on this picture, you see another great veteran, Roma veteran Arsen Mednik. The Guardian published this article a year ago due to our mutual efforts of ARCA and other German stakeholders with whom we collaborate since 2022. So this article shows the results of our advocacy that we have been doing. And we can go to next slide. And briefly, I will introduce activities, what we have been doing. And advocacy for us, for ARCA, have been the main target because we see many possibilities how to do it and the reasons why we do it. So since 2022, there was a need to talk about participation of Roma, that they are on the same equal level as other Ukrainians, participate in a war, they defend their country, that the man is participating as soldiers, that others are being volunteers, civil society provides a huge political support and raise the attention to the Ukraine overall. And here we see our active role as ARCA, what we still do until today. And within this, during the 3 years, we organized many events. In particularly, we have annual event of Roma Forum on Ukraine, which was happening 3 years in a row. In 2022, we had this first event in Berlin. We provided a platform for Roma civil society where everyone could come. It was the first meeting since the full-scale invasion and many of organizations being expelled from Ukraine. So it was a first checkpoint to see where we are, what do we do, how do we unite, what are the priorities, and who is taking which role. So yeah, we had these capacities within ARCA, and we were happy to provide this for our partners. In 2023, we had another event in Berlin as well. And previous year, 2024, we had the same event in the format of conference in Ukraine. And it was the first event since full-scale invasion in Ukraine that we created. And it was very successful in a way that we draw attention to governmental representatives in Ukraine, that representation which was there, the UN, EU delegation on Ukraine, they were our official partners, that German ministries were also presented there. And overall, we see a huge support within the Germany. From German side since 2022, and our partner Central Council of Sinti and Roma provided that channel for us, and till now we are cooperating together on many projects. And the reason why they do it, as even ministries told us, because Germany feels the specific responsibility for the fate of Roma connected to the historical context. We can remain on this slide for a while. talking about the Second World War and genocide that was committed against Roma communities. It gives reasons for Germany right now to protect Ukrainian Roma in Ukraine and in EU. And we feel it, honestly, we do. Talking about the other events that we do besides of the civil society, political advocacy events, we also do a lot of policy making. In particularly, we created position papers where gathered opinions of around 10 biggest organizations, Roma organizations in Ukraine, where we highlight the needs of Roma and what should be considered by civil society in Ukraine, in EU, by governmental stakeholders during their creation of their policies. So there is a specific need right now to include Roma in all the policy making processes, in particularly connected to the recovery processes of Ukraine as well as accession of Ukraine to the EU. If we lose right now this moment, the consequences can be really significant. Roma can be expelled from the narratives, denied of any access because of this anti-Gypsyism as well. Yeah, it's very deeply rooted, and right now we are trying to find ways how to fight with this. In particularly, we have legal propositions to our governmental stakeholders to create anti-Gypsyism as a legal procedure and how it can be proceeded in Ukraine. So there are different possibilities how to do it, and step by step we do it. Besides of creating our own events, we also participate in a bigger Ukrainian platform events. For example, we had several online events on platform in Germany of platform for reconstruction of Ukraine, where gathered a lot of governmental stakeholders, research institutions, NGOs, as well as business, which invests right now in recovery of Ukraine. So we draw attention to the topic of Roma and other minorities in Ukraine, in particular Crimean Tatars and North Azovian groups with whom we work actively together right now. We think that if we do it together, our voices are being more stronger and being heard better. We've been participating in recovery conference of Ukraine previous year, and we had several possibilities of our activists to have some intervention, to draw attention to the Roma topics, and particularly to human rights, to cultural aspects and gender importance of Roma women rights to being included in the whole gender policy making processes. If we talk about this year and what we had, the last event we created, it was in March in Berlin, Cafe Kiev, and we had a specific Roma program there. We've shown the movie named Voices, which is about personal stories of Roma since 2022, aligned with stories of Roma genocide survivors from the Second World War. And it had a really big audience. We saw a big interest. In addition, we had a panel discussion with soldier Arsen Mednik and some political representatives of Germany, Ukraine. So yeah, that's the last event, and also previous year there was a couple of cultural events, particularly in Berlin, Pilecki Institute, in Heidelberg. We had a presentation of our exhibition, Me Ukraina Tar. It's an exhibition created. I'm sorry, I don't have many pictures in my presentation, but I hope you can find all that info on our website. This is a very general photo that you see from our conference in 2023 in Berlin. Yeah, which is kind of symbolic because many decisions were done in that year. the events previous year in cultural events in Germany, particularly Pilecki Institute and in Heidelberg, it was presentation of exhibition, as I mentioned, My Ukraina Tar, created by the Ukrainian artist Maximov Alexander, who created collages on the main figures as he regard in Ukrainian context, history, historical figures, and nowadays activists who made a significant contribution to the Roma movement and Ukrainian society overall in different aspects as cultural representatives in music, visual arts, in theater, in cinema. Also, there was a specific series of portraits of Roma soldiers from the Second World War and nowadays war. And this message we promote a lot because we have some kind of negative experience after the Second World War when our Roma soldiers were not recognized. And until now, we make the importance to talk about it, to not have the same situation. So our soldiers, they do not hide. They show that they are Roma, that they are there on the front lines as other Ukrainians. And we can go to the next slide to talk about other activities that we do. So Jeunesse is our media project that have been launched in 2019. Since the Corona, we saw a big importance of existence of such platform where we talk about Roma communities in Ukraine, where we unite for the most themselves between each other, and also it's a platform where they can represent themselves for others. Others, I mean Ukrainian society and also audience from abroad, because most of the materials we also translate in English. We have articles, we have audio podcasts, photo and video quality content produced by our team. Our team, I mean, we have half Roma, half Ukrainian team, professional ones who work on state radios, different media, governmental and also private independent entities. So this quality of the team really shows the quality of the content they produce, and many European partners repost our content, translate into their languages. So we are really open for any partnerships. We can provide materials if some of the audience is interested. And if you go to our website, you will see on a separate section the Janus info platform. And you can listen also podcasts on Spotify and Apple podcasts. We make it as much as possible available and easy to use for our audience. And if we go to the next slide, here you see the picture of the book, The Earth Was Breathing. This is a book that was produced during the project 2 years in a row. We just finished this project. It was supported by the IFAUZ Foundation. During this project, we gathered testimonies of Roma genocide survivors in Ukraine. There are around 10 of them professionally recorded with anthropologist team in Ukraine. We did it for specific interview prepared ahead by the Roma researcher, considering all the aspects of sensitivity. And we have very quality videos right now, audio material, transcriptions of it in Ukrainian and in English. And within these materials was created a comic book for the youth, which can be used for educational, non-formal education for youth about the Roma genocide in Ukraine. So it's personal stories of survivors. Each survivor has its own chapter in this book. and it's very easy for youngsters and also for people who are not in a context to acquire the information fast, be aware of a significant page of Roma history as Roma genocide during the Second World War. This book is not available yet online. We just now printing the versions, and hopefully we can send some to Anna and to Stefan to have it. We have the books in Ukrainian, English, and Romani dialect in Latinica. Yeah. That's about this project, and also by QR code you can scan the methodology, because in parallel we created methodology on how the testimonies were collected, and also this is a kind of a toolkit for others who are interested in similar work to do. We are very open, we share our practices, because we regard this safeguarding of the heritage of the genocide heritage of Roma is essential, and right now we have less and less survivors with us. So if more people can do it, it's great. And overall, with these testimonies, we do continue. Soon we will continue to collect more of them. And besides of it, we also have partnerships with Ukrainian museums and other institutions, governmental ones, with aim to create a permanent exhibition in Ukraine on Roma genocide, and also included into narrative, general narrative of Ukrainian history, because this chapter cannot be separated from the whole narrative, because Roma are the same as others. They are Ukrainian citizens. And yeah, we can go to the next slide. If there is something, there is nothing. So I can conclude the presentation by saying that it's very difficult to put everything that we do in this presentation, but overall it's important to highlight that ARCA is doing as much as we can in our capacity nowadays. But many organizations also do their job. So it's good that there are many of us. Some of us take more in human rights dimension, some of us more into gender aspects. We regard our priorities until now, which is advocacy work and safeguarding of cultural heritage, particularly Roma genocide heritage in Ukraine. And there's a priority topics for the next years as well for us. And also important to mention that in February we've created a new entity, AURA. It's Ukrainian Roma Advocacy Alliance in Germany. It's a partnership alliance between Ukrainian and German activists, and right now we are building the infrastructure to work in EU, because we had this issue of being registered in Ukraine. We don't have that much voice in EU, but since February we do have it, and the priorities of AURA will be to work with Ukrainian Romani refugees in Germany, in EU member states, draw attention, and also help back to those who still remained in Ukraine. So on this point, I would like to finish and open the floor for the discussion. I would be very happy to hear your questions. I will try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalia. It's really wonderful to hear about all those initiatives. And for so many years, I mean, you are not really running the organization for decades, but for a couple of years, and already you have so much. I mean, it's really impressive. And if someone has comments or questions, yeah, Florence.
Yes, thank you very much, Natalia, for your presentation. It was really inspiring. I don't know how you do everything. It seems that it's so much you are doing. It's fantastic. But I had some question because I do not really know the situation of Roma people in Ukraine, and I was wondering if Roma people or Roma are a national minority, recognized national minority in Ukraine or not. So that was one question. And then I didn't really understand when you spoke about the status, the refugee status of Roma people when they came after 2022 to the EU, because you say they didn't have the same legal status that the other refugees. And did you have in mind the same like for Syrian or for refugees, for instance, or did you have in mind that the Roma Ukrainian refugees do not have the same status as the Ukrainian refugees in Germany, for instance? So if there is ethnicity putting some different status for if the Ukrainian refugees are, if there is two sorts of their of status because of your ethnicity. So that was my two questions. Thank you.
Yeah, answering shortly on the first one, Roma are being recognized in Ukraine as national minorities for many years. That's the case. About legal status in EU of Ukrainian Roma, it's the same as other Ukrainians. So when they enter the border, they seek for protection status, specific protection status for Ukrainians, and they should acquire it easily as other Ukrainians. But the issue that they are not many of them because of this institutional anti-Tsiganism is very rooted. For example, if a person with dual passports, having Ukrainian and Hungarian passport, come into EU, and so they are being checked. And if they are checked, it's a very good reason to put them aside, expel from the country, and get white Ukrainians who will not be an additional issue for the shelter or so. Stefan, you want to add something, I see.
Yes, because they don't have dual passports. They speak Hungarian because they're in Zakarpatska Ukraine, and there a lot of the Roma speak Hungarian as mother tongue rather than Romanes. And in the case here, because the Zakarpatska Ukraine Roma arrived actually very recently in Western Europe because they didn't have passports until very recently. Now they have Ukrainian passports. Ukraine, at least the ones that I've seen in Switzerland, in Germany, have received passports in the last 2 years from Ukraine, and they fled after that. So we have definitely an issue with Roma refugees from Zakarpatska because effectively politicians, populists, at least in Switzerland and in Germany, or in the Czech Republic, they also say they are Hungarians and they're not Ukrainians. So I think there, but dual citizenship, except for very rich Levada and Kazarasha, I've never seen a dual citizenship from Zakarpatska Ukrainske Roma so far.
But it's not just about Roma. Ukrainians also have it.
Yes, the law is very simple because right now I'm in Urbanistan. Mr. Orban put the law a few years back that if you speak Hungarian and you're outside of Hungary, you're entitled to a Hungarian passport. The catch-22 on this one is that in order to get that, you have to go to the Hungarian consulate and speak Hungarian to the consul. So if you're Rom, very little chance. If you're not, then yes, there are quite a few people from Zakarpatska Ukraine who got the passport, and some rich Roma also. I know a few, Kazarasha, but they left 10 years ago, roughly. So right now, what we have is quite a few Zakarpatska Roma in Austria, in Germany, in Switzerland, and to a lesser extent in Poland, who are considered to be non-Ukrainian, even though they are Ukrainian, just because they speak Hungarian better than they speak Ukrainian generally.
Okay, put aside the passport issues. In the beginning of the war, we observed really horrible situation in Poland and in the Czech Republic when Roma arrived, the same like Ukrainians, and they were not given any same benefits and opportunities.
That's for sure. That's definitely the case, unless when they were recognized as Roma, they were definitely discriminated in Germany, in Switzerland. We've had cases everywhere. So minorities at the border here in Hungary or in Slovakia, people would not take refugees in 2022 if they were Roma. And you had effectively some Roma in Slovakia and in Hungary who helped families cross over as such. But it was definitely racist in Germany.
Yeah, and returning to Natalia's presentation, in the beginning, Natalia, you said that according to the recent research, 1 of 3 Ukrainians don't want to live in neighborhood, or that Roma would be their neighbors. Neighborhood with Roma would be their neighbors. And what do you think from the inside of the community? How the situation changed? Because what I mean, like in 2006, 2005, 7, when I was a long time ago, 20 years ago, when I worked in secondary school, in Ukrainian secondary school in Dnipro, then Dnipropetrovsk, I had one research when I basically created kind of questionnaire for 200 students from 7 to 11 grades. I mean, from it's like high school to the graduates, and asked them several questions about quite long list of different national groups and what they know about those groups, how they treat. There was special methodology, but the issue there is that I was quite surprised that actually the entire gypsyism was really high, extremely high. And after that, like after Roma, who were really treated by students who basically didn't know much about Roma, but they mentioned Roma as enemies and proposed horrible decisions like to send them to Siberia and so on. And then in terms of scale, there was a gap, and it came Jews. And what was interesting, that in this school, there were Roma children. And this school was not like kind of elite or central school. It was like on the periphery of the city with very different minority groups and so on. But Roma, the attitude to Roma was terrible. Then we repeated the same case in Donetsk, and we saw exactly the same situation. Yeah. And here my question comes. Do you think that through all these years, the situation with the attitude to Roma by non-Roma has changed, particularly, I mean, during the wartime? Because now we have more information that Roma participate as soldiers and in other ways support Ukrainian army and Ukrainian independence.
Definitely, we see the shift because of the media representation. I mean, starting from Roma entities who started to share this information, then Ukrainian state and independent entities as well catch this message because it gets a lot of views. It's good to talk about different minorities who are right now participating in the war, not just Roma, but others as well. Sexual minorities, ethnical minorities, different. It gives the states this power to unite people, to motivate to go to the army. It's not a secret that we are lacking men right now. So it's really a good campaign, let's say. In case of Roma, this visibility and media representation helps to change slowly the society deeply rooted stereotypes, because even in Roma communities for many decades participating in the war was something unusual. So it's been like romanticized and regarded as Roma are apolitical. It can be, but when we look at the Second World War, they were our soldiers. Right now, also we have it. So we cannot call Roma apolitical anymore. And it's becoming something as normal to have your man participate in defending country. And it changed, but it will not change fast. So it's a first step into this big society changes. And when we were on recovery conference, apologies, we were talking how important to talk about Ukrainian identity. Who is Ukrainian right now? And that is not the ethnical white Ukrainian. It's also Ukraine is very dimensional, multidimensional. It has many ethnic minorities, and to show this diversity, it will be just a plus for the state. And it's getting more chances to go into EU faster. So to be a tolerative country to many other minorities and to support, because this union is unbreakable if we are all together.
Hussein, Pira, do you want to ask something?
Yes.
Are you on mute? Okay.
The case of Crimean Tatars, I want to talk a little bit about after 2014. The perception of Crimean Tatars has changed. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Crimean Tatars before 2014 was kind of at the out fringes of the ethnic Ukrainian titular nation's radar. So they knew about Crimean Tatars. Crimea, they knew there it was a place to go and swim, but they did not really knew the problems of the Crimean Tatars, who they were, if they were loyal to Ukraine, if they were not. The Russian propaganda for so many years where it was introducing Crimean Tatars were as a separatist group which wants to integrate with Turkey because they are Muslim, they are a Turkic nation, and etc. But what happens after 2014, during the 2014 annexation of Russians, Crimean Tatars have shown loyalty to Ukraine. They have done whatever they could to support the Ukrainian soldiers entrapped by the Ukrainian soldiers entrapped by the Russian soldiers. And that kind of changed the perception of who Crimean Tatars were for Ukrainian titular nation. Now, I guess similar perception changes happening in the case of Roma, and it kind of brings Roma to the center, being equal partners in society, equally contributing. Here, I think a difference is that Crimean Tatars have been more active since Soviet times because they were persecuted. They were deported from Crimea in 1944, and their struggle kind of organized them in a different way compared to Roma. Here, I want to ask you how Roma attachment or feeling of Ukrainianness is shifting since independence. How much Roma have been seeing themselves Ukrainian, part of the nation, and how this war is impacting it. We also know that Roma historically are not military-minded, warlike-minded people. How that is impacting Roma perception of the self to fight for the country. Historically, many countries were not gifting or accepting Roma dearly. So how that balancing out itself from the perception of Roma? in vis-a-vis the country they live in, now fighting for it.
For the beginning, I wanted to reflect a bit on what you've said before and then to answer your question, if that's okay. I think Roma have been persecuted in Ukraine not less than Crimean Tatars. I mean, it's not about comparison, but it's acknowledgement about the history of Roma in Ukraine, that they are being persecuted during the Second World War, even before, that there were genocide by bullets. Roma were not in most of regions in Ukraine sent to concentration camps, mostly from west part of Ukraine. Yes, they were sent to concentration camps in Auschwitz and further. But on other regions, Roma were killed on the places of mass gatherings. So that's a chapter of history which we are highlighting, and we regard it important to include into national narratives more, because now it's just a line in history books and school curriculum, which is not enough. And it's not in museums, not in institutional memorial sites. When we talk about difference between Crimean Tatars movement and Roma movement, there is a significant point, because Crimean Tatars were living in Crimea, and their shift legal status in Ukraine as indigenous people started in 2024 when the Crimea was annexation happened. Yeah, so that's why this legal status gave a lot to the community. So the voice, the recognition, and yeah. In the case of Roma, we don't have land. And we never had it. And I'm not sure we will have it. So we are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. That's why for Roma, without this territory itself, I mean, politically, without something feasible, difficult to show their attachment. But in reality, Roma feel themselves as Ukrainians, and they've been feeling. If we, like me as a cultural heritage researcher, during my research, which is still ongoing right now, when I looked how Ukrainian heritage is very close to Roma heritage, how both of cultures take some pieces and safeguard, how they are combined and how they are very unique in a way. When we look at the European heritage, Roma heritage, it's a bit different. So I would say that Roma in Ukraine have been regarding themselves as Ukrainians, but since the 2022, this part of identity became stronger. I'm talking about myself. I mean, I've been always feeling as Ukrainian, but since 2022, I felt a specific need to declare it, to talk about this publicly, to be included in this whole Ukrainian activism, and to show that Roma are same, and what many activists do nowadays.
Thank you. And I know that we have to finish, but if we have like 2-3 more minutes, okay. I mean, Natalia, if you also have a couple of minutes, I would like to ask like last question. The Baben Yar Center tries to do many things about the Jews, and also in Odessa was open the Territory of Memory Museum, which includes the exhibition about Roma. So my question is, to what extent you cooperate with those two big institutions, and generally how Jews are willing to include the information about Roma and projects about Roma into their agenda. This is first. And second, also, if briefly you can mention about other Romani organizations, how open they are to cooperate with ARCA. Because I know previously, not about ARCA, but about different Romani organizations, they had kind of conflict and didn't want to cooperate with each other, for instance, in Ismail or in Odessa. And there were several organizations which really tried to avoid each other. That's why my question came. Yeah, thanks.
Talking about ARCA partnership with state institutions, in particular Baben Yar Memorial Preserve, So what we've done so far together, previous year, 2024, we organized together a commemoration ceremony in Babin Yar as official. It had several roundtables with political representatives. Also, we involve Babin Yar in Roma big events. For example, the last conference in Krakow happening during the commemoration in Auschwitz. There were participants from Babin Yar as a speaker. So we try to invite them to our events, and also we are being included in their agenda as well. So what we do right now, we will have this year together the first official exhibition, Invisible, to talk about fate of Roma in history, particularly genocide and nowadays context. And this is a first step towards the permanent exhibition, which will be happening hopefully after the war, because right now the preserve museum is being under construction, and they are saying that it should open in 2-3 years, but we don't know the dynamics of the war, if it will be the case. But anyway, we are preparing the exhibition, and once physically the museum is opened, we will have the Roma exposition as well. They're integrated into the whole exposition. Talking about other Roma NGOs and dynamics nowadays, I think it's common to every country that Roma organizations, or not just Roma, like organizations who are working in the same segment, have kind of concurrence and competition, and which is normal, if it's healthy. I mean, it's fine. But in Ukraine nowadays, because of the war, because we have common goals, it's a bit different since the before full scale. So now we can separate the responsibilities, the areas of work, and altogether it creates really a strong impact because we have the same goal. I mean, there is no reason to fight. The same goal to improve the position of Roma in Ukraine and make a shift in policy making, in society, attitudes, and yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of words about Odessa to cooperate with the territory of memory. Why I'm asking, because it's kind of essential. We had we have several organizations, Romani organizations in Odessa, also very strong Jewish community. So
we never work with them. If you can provide the contacts, it would be really good. From Odessa, we cooperate with Chirikli, Voice of Romania, our close partners, and many others. I mentioned that position papers that we created. 10 Roma organizations are listed there. I'm happy to share this position paper with you if you are interested. Yeah, it's important to acknowledge that many organizations do not have capacities, infrastructure nowadays. Many people are they're trying to protect their families that don't have capacities to work. So we are being privileged to have this network of international partners who could start supporting us since 2022. That's why slowly we increased our capacity, our infrastructure, and yeah, and it's still increasing.
yeah, thank you so much. Any other comments, questions? No, I understand we are a little bit out of time. We have to finish. And again, thank you so much, Natalia. And we recorded the presentation. It will be uploaded on our website, and we inform people who couldn't attend today. And the next our meeting and our talk will be in May, and then last one in June this year. So next one May 28th, and then June 25th, like usually last Wednesday.
Last Wednesday of the month. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your invitation.
And have a nice rest of the evening. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.